Hi, what's up? Welcome back. So this is take 2 of my Fuel Bittersweet video. I tried to record it before, ran out of battery, thought I put the other one in, blah, 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 blah. I didn't record it right, so we're doing it again. I did this because I did a Fuel video earlier, and someone had commented on it, and he really appreciated it. I mean, he said it was the only one out there of that, and I didn't realize that. So, hey, you know what? I'm first somewhere, right? Anyway, we're gonna do Bittersweet because it's another really good one. Like Sunburn is an amazing album. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead. So, enough of my rambling. Let's get into this. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. In my previous video, I looked it up earlier, but I still remember it now. I'll paraphrase. Essentially, the song is about regretting your decisions and coming to terms with it and living with the aftermath of what you've done and kind of how you deal with it. That's like an overview of the song, but we'll get into more detail as it goes along. Okay, before we get into the lyrics though, that intro is just the way it sets you up and then just like punches you right in the face. It's so good and so powerful, and it just like they do a good job of building it up in you before they just let loose. Like, let's just go back a little bit. That okay, come on. Like, you see that, like the way it kind of grooves on the intro, and then once it hits that right moment, and the drummer starts ramping everything up, and then it's just boom. It's just so good. Anyway, let's keep going.
Seven sins and wantonness and everything that's good is gone. Sell it for the glory from the peers. Silicone priest is scratch your back and twist the knife to bone. Kick against the bricks and scrape the shins. I'm the enemy, and the enemy's now.
Okay, well, first, one more thing before I get into the lyrics. Brett Scallion, what I appreciate about Brett Scallion looking back now, because it's been a while since I've watched this, is how animated he is, the frontman, how like unapologetically alive he is on stage. Because some lead singers can sometimes just kind of they just kind of stand there and they don't really do much. They just sing, which is fine. But it's like it's just like he gives himself over to the music, and so it expresses itself very much as it does vocally, but also physically. And I appreciate that about him. And there are other frontmen who do that too, but I appreciate that about frontmen who do that, who just allow the music to flow through them physically as well as vocally. Anyway, so this opening verse, when he says, what did he say? Oh, yeah, he says, seven sins of wantonness and everything that's good is gone. When he says, yeah, seven sins of wantonness and everything that's good is gone. Sell it from the glory from the peers. Essentially, that's him talking. That's just like the setup. That's him kind of like laying out the beginning of this tale about himself, about how he sort of like indulged his more hedonistic, maybe darker desires, gave into things like no sex, drugs, all that kind of stuff, just as an example, and it kind of chipped away at pieces of him each time, and he kind of sold pieces of himself for peer approval. So one could say there was a certain amount of peer pressure around maybe, and he did it for the approval of those around him. And so essentially, like when he says sell it for the glory for the peers, like I sold pieces of myself for approval of others, and it did nothing more than chip away at me. And so I think that also ties into the silicone priestess scratch the back and twist a knife to bone, because some of these lines are not necessarily direct, but they're more so painting an image of a feeling than being very specific in what they're saying, like in line like that. Because it kind of makes me think of something that is maybe not like artificial, but industrial. Something this like like silicone, like plastic, like maybe like the falsity of a life, like it's symbolic of the damage he's doing to himself in a way, and it twists in deeper every time he made these choices. So that could be what the silicone priestess kind of represents. I don't necessarily know, but and then he says, kick against the pricks and scrape the shins. I think that also ties into it. That kind of carries that thought over into him talking about how how he kind of like did damage to himself trying to maybe hurt others, or because it's very interesting when he says kick against the pricks, because sometimes saying like a prick is an insult to a person. You call someone a prick, so you could take it that way. Kick against the pricks, like he's talking badly down to some other people or people that he maybe was against or fought against, but he would fall and hurt himself every time. Or you know it's maybe like him fighting, not like fighting back, but every time he did what he did, he ended up falling on his ass every time, or scraping his shins, hurting himself every time. So it kind of also speaks to the damage that he's doing to himself in a way. I don't know. It's a very good song. It's very interesting. It's fun to think about these things.
Scrape the shins. I'm the enemy. And the enemies now.
Oh yeah, okay. That part before we get into the chorus, when he says he's the enemy and the enemies now, I love that because he's kind of saying like he's kind of become what he hates, or he's now the bad guy. He's become the enemy through his actions. It dictated his course, and it's changed who he is to where now he is the enemy to the enemy. Like he's probably worse than the enemy in some ways now, or to that oppositional force that he was maybe trying to be against. This also maybe speaks to his more youthful rebellion, more rebellious phase in his life. Anyway, let's keep going.
Swallow the pill. Drink to the pill. And all these things I carry now. In this bittersweet. In this bittersweet now.
And so in the chorus, that chorus really kind of solidifies everything that he's saying. I swallowed the pill, I drank to the fill, and all these things I carry now in this bittersweet now. So essentially, he's like, I did the drugs and the pills and the drinks to the fill are symbolic of the indulgence that he allowed himself to revel in. I swallowed the pills, like I did the drugs, I did the drinking, like I did the part, I did all of it. And now that I'm on the other side and I'm coming out of it, I carry this with me, and it's sort of bittersweet because maybe I've grown, I've become a better person, but I went through all these things to become the way I am. So it's kind of like a double edge. Would I have been who I am now if I hadn't done those things? Or could I have possibly been better if I hadn't done those things? Would I have been nothing if I hadn't done those things? So it's kind of bittersweet pill to swallow that I have to deal. Oh, the pill could also have double meaning like that. But like, I have to swallow this pill and deal with the things that I have done and live with it, and it's sort of, and I have to deal with that, that feeling. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, so in the second verse, I really like the second verse because the second verse, I think, in some ways speaks it kind of continues that theme, but it also kind of ends on a much more hopeful note in a weird way. Like when he says, "Try to hold the world as sinking swimming in a paper cup." I love that line because it kind of shows that, like, you're trying to keep things together as it's slowly falling apart, and it kind of speaks to also maybe to the state of the world in and of itself, and how you're trying to keep this world together. Because it's like, water in a paper cup. Eventually, the water eats the paper cup. The paper cup can't hold forever. So it kind of speaks to the fact that you're trying to hold it together, but eventually it will all dissolve and fall apart. And then when he says, "Try to own the one beneath the skin," I really think that speaks to trying to recognize and control and tame the inner beast, your inner demons, like the things that lie within you, about self-control in a way. And then when he says, "Held up to the flame, still singeing skin begins to draw and tug, never told there's not a chance to win." Like, that's a very interesting line. "Held up to the flame, still singeing skin begins to draw and tug," because it paints a very vivid image of, when you see skin burn and you start to see like third-degree burn. It's a something you shouldn't have to see. Trust me. And so it paints a very vivid image of, like, his personal experience. Like, it's something that you can kind of interpret it how you want to, but it paints a very clear image, sort of what the experience was like. I think that's kind of what that is. It's kind of it kind of encapsulates what he went through, what it was like, what he went through, and what it felt like. But then this line here, this is where I think it ends in a bit more of a hopeful way. He says, "Never told there's not a chance to win." Like, when like that line right there is like, "No, I was never told there's not a." I can like it shows that there's a possibility of surviving, of coming out on the other side whole and better, but forever changed.
Told us not a chance to win. What couldn't be, wouldn't be now.
Now this line right here, "What couldn't be, wouldn't be now," is, I don't know. It really does. It's like this also very much like solidifies what that previous verse is about, or it's like, actually it's more of like a non sequitur thought, but it's a kind of a conclusive thought that possibly, like, what couldn't be wouldn't be now. Like, what couldn't happen wouldn't be what it is now. So it's like, I mean, it's kind of like saying, I think I kind of interpret it as, it kind of like, it is what it is. Like, things turned out possibly the way they were meant to turn out, for better or for worse. And I had to possibly go through what I went through to be who I am now. And what wasn't possible wouldn't be possible. Like, maybe it means like things couldn't have gone any other way. Again, you can kind of take it for what you want to take it as, because it's kind of clear, but also can be open to interpretation at the same time, even though it's a very simple line.
Swallow the pill and drink to the fill. And all these things I carry now. In this bittersweet, in this bittersweet now. Bittersweet.
I do love that whole tempo change right there, when it goes from more like just grungy, rough sound to that more, I want to say, like almost like pearlescent, somewhat angelic sound, and how that changes like the feel of the song, and like it kind of elevates you to a whole nother state, and it's kind of symbolic of the state of mind and where the song has gone at this point.
Love is bittersweet. Hold your hands up to the sky and try so hard to rise above. Everything is freedom.
Now I do love that line because again it ultimately kind of ends on a more optimistic, hopeful note. Because when he says, like, "Hold your hands up to the sky and try so hard to rise above, but everything's beating down," But it also speaks to the muck and the mire and also the dismal state that one can be in. Like, you're trying very hard to push your way up, but then everything keeps pushing against you, almost trying to hold you back from pulling yourself up and pulling yourself out. But ultimately, he did come out the other side, and that's kind of the point of the song, that it was difficult, but he did come out the other side and came out the other side hopefully better for it.
Swallow the pill and drink to the fill. All these things I carry now. In this bittersweet, in this bittersweet now. Swallow the pill and drink to the fill. All these things I carry now. In this bittersweet, in this bittersweet, in this bittersweet now.
Okay, so that was Fuel Bittersweet. Man, I love that song. It's been a while since I listened to it, but it like revs you up, like you feel it in your soul, and I love that. Anyway, I think that's gone on long enough. I can ramble forever, and we don't have that kind of time or battery power. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Disagree? Um, what are your thoughts on it? If you want to do, if you really do want to hear me talk about a different Fuel song or one of your favorite Fuel songs, if you like this video, let me know in the comments, and I'll add it to my list, and I will gladly talk about it. And thank you. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.